Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And today we have a very interesting guest, Girish Batra. Many of you in the startup ecosystem will already know him. But for the rest of you, before I introduce, once again, thanks for sustaining on FutureFast till now. And I hope you're enjoying the ride. What we're trying to do, like you already know, and for those who have come in for the first time and possibly got attracted to it because Girish is here. FutureFast is an effort to bring in people who are doing things that are potentially going to impact on the future the way uh, uh, we may not be able to predict with, but hopefully positively. So, in the course, also the whole conversation is uh, driving towards trying to understand their perspective and also the challenges as they foresee, and potentially, possibly some tips, tools to how we can prepare with in the course of our own journey, our own ride. So, I'm going to or dive into the conversation and hope all of you will enjoy the ride. So, Girish, welcome to Future Fast and thank you for making time. So, uh, for the people, what I like about your introduction is you say startup scientist, venture builder, angel investor. So, that is Girish Batra for you. And those who know you already know what that means. So, I would like you to uh, perhaps start your journey from I was just having a look some time ago that you started off as a software engineer and then sales marketing and that too in the white goods space. So you've had a crazy ride, I must say. So where do you want to start from to the point where you are today?
Yeah, so I can easily break my journey and career into three parts. Uh, and it's like three cat has nine lives. I'm already in the third one. So I start with the first one and then the second one and then the third one. And each are unique. Like I enjoyed my stint in each of these three phases of my life and kind of unlearned and relearned what the skill sets were required for the next phase because it was actually three different phases. So these are my three lives. And thanks for having me on this session, Manjuta. Really happy to be here and share my journey and whatever little bit I've learned through the mistakes and the right decisions.
No, that I'm sure is exciting. So please start.
Yeah, so the first journey, of course, I did my engineering and I was kind of in the topper bit. And I did my software engineering for the first 8, 9 months and was also feeling that maybe software engineering is not a career I might want for the long term because sitting in front of a system and just programming what others want us to program was not something I foresaw myself. So I jumped into MBA. And at the time I started my MBA, again, MBA gives you that option of choosing in the first year whether you want to go into sales or marketing or HR or operations. So I was good in finance. In fact, many of my classmates were surprised that I chose marketing. But again, marketing was a career I chose for the thrill it gave because finance I thought is an element of organization, whereas marketing can grow to be the full organization going forward because finally you're dealing with the product, you're dealing with the pricing, you're dealing with the channel. So that's how I jumped into marketing and I got into the consumer durable space. On my first summer training also, I still remember it was a 2 month stint and I was given a project by Videocon to map the entire distribution network they had created versus competition and give them their strengths and weaknesses. How was our distribution network versus say BPL or Onida or all the players that time? And I had got to present to the CEO. And I was quite confident. So that gave me that confidence that be it authority on the other side, I could give them some insights which they also take away even after spending years in their domain. So at times that noviceness has a thrill to it and that value adding also to the other person on the other side if they have the ears to listen. I've got both kinds of experiences. Some people believe they know a lot versus a novice, whereas I was the other kind, but I love to give my two bits to the other side. And then I started my consumer durable stint. Yeah, go ahead. You want
Because
to?
just before you move to the consumer durables, yeah, I think we are kind of peers. Maybe looks like
Yeah,
you are a year senior to me, perhaps.
right.
So, uh, what I want to ask is that around the time the IT as a career option was still niche. It was there, but it was not the kind where, people, at least coming from Bangalore, where people started migrating to Bangalore to just to get into the IT industry. Those days, it was
Mhm.
till the early days, and
Mhm.
I think there were more people who made it to IT jobs from Aptech and NITs than a software engineer from a engineering college, because I think there were engineering colleges were also far few, right?
True, true.
So, but it was not that it was not a cool job, so to speak, right? So, uh, what was it that 93, 94 was? It's what is it that you wanted to move out of it? I mean, apart from just a boring job on a computer, a desk job, is that all?
See, I was inside IT. I was in Patni Computers. I was doing programming, and it was a big hierarchy. I joined as a software trainee, followed by a software engineer. So it was a big hierarchy, and beyond the point, the minds who designed that software were the senior people who were 50% at that time uh, sitting abroad. They were the designers of what kind of we were programming for. So we used to get the projects, transition projects, or these kind of projects. And at that time, IT was more a body chopper. So technically, if someone wanted to go to the US, it was a lovely job. If you want to go to the US, get a green card and take that. I somehow
And
had the Indianness in me that I didn't know US was not that attractive to me versus building a career in India. So that made me switch. Yeah.
oh, we never spoke on this because I think that is one area probably we would have connected for sure. Uh, but one more question. One is that, okay, I think that is true that most people wanted to get in because that was a way to get go across to US. But another aspect is that it was clearly not about solving problems there, right? As a software
True,
engineer, it was about a good salary, settle down with a big company, and get to travel to US.
true, true, true.
But at that point of time, this perspective seems very good. But was there any point of time was there any kind of a regret that I should have stuck it out in IT industry?
No, no regret. See, I
Fantastic.
actually tried to come back. I had these two options, consumer durables and IT, for my after my marketing. But at that time, again, IT for marketing for IT was very nascent. So people didn't want MBAs to do the marketing of, say, Microland, or say, like Wipro had used to hire MBAs for their selling their computers for channel management. But at that time, again, they didn't need overqualified or qualified people versus consumer durables or FMCG, which were more evolved, so to say. So they had the best of the best brains to do their marketing and sales.
Right. Yeah, please, let's get to the
Yeah.
consumer goods journey.
So the consumer goods stint, again, from a premier institute, uh, and MBA. So that time MBA was a rarity. So I still remember I joined Chandigarh branch, and I was the senior most in the branch, equivalent to the branch manager in terms of the respect I got. So some of that gave that confidence early stage that maybe I've learned something or known something which others don't have because they don't have that MBA from a coveted institute. And that confidence helps. If I give that one thing which the MBA from Narsimhanji gave me, it was that confidence that whatever the situation, you'll be able to adapt, bring that new insights into the role, and help the organization also grow. So with that, I kind of jumped into the stint, worked really hard to learn the ropes of channel management in Voltas at that time. And I still remember our business head, divisional manager, technically he was the CEO of that division. He was a manufacturing guy, and he was kind of putting pressure on the sales team that why don't you sell this product? And that product had quality issues. And as manufacturing folks, they say that was the earlier lot. My new lot does not have that issue. So keep selling. But I said the trade has lost confidence, and I showed him the product. And I still remember my boss, he must be 25, 30 years experience at that time. And me, a 1 year old experienced guy, he went red in face. But that confidence or that thing was, I am like that only, accept it or me. So if you hire professionals, you have to kind of be humble enough to take their positive and negative feedback also. But I was like that on the face. And in meetings also, I used to be quite forthright in terms of my recommendation. And the people with 15, 20 years experience respected that. That, okay, what you are saying, I also want to say, but because I'm so many years kind of, I'm mellowed down and I don't give that cryptic negative feedback at times.
Right. And uh, I know, and I can really relate to this high feeling of being young and brash and being able to give it to people who are 15, 20 years
Yeah.
seniors to us. But uh, was there any other person who was influential in this journey for you, or was it? Uh, is it something that you planned? This is how it should be, or was it a peer thing that pushed you in this direction? How was it? How did this happen?
So see, my first phase, which is the consumer durables phase, it lasted 13 and a half years and started with Voltas for 1.5 years, then Godrej G, it was Godrej G that time for 2.5 years, and then Whirlpool for 8 years. So this was my total phase. I had good bosses, average bosses during that entire stint, got promotions because of my hard work or results which I was able to produce. And that again, see, it's if I was brash, I was also humble. So I still remember I had a team member, he was reporting into me, who was 6, 7 years experienced than me. His name was Adil. In fact, I put his case study in this book. I'll mention about the book later. It's called Experiments in Leadership. So now I'm the sales manager and he's the sales executive, and he's out from a 2-week tour. He came to office and I take his report. So logically, as a senior, what do you call? You call him. But Adil won't come. I'm busy. I'm doing this. So as a routine, what I built that habit is I'll go to his table. So I'll go to his table, sit in front of him, and just take the update. Or you met this distributor, what did he say? Adil used to speak to me like this. Yeah, tell me, Girish, what can I do for you? That passive aggression, which you know. So that instilled that leadership challenge also in front of me. That okay, one, I was a brash subordinate to seniors, but you can have brash subordinates to you also kind of believe, teko kya aata hai? So I spent 12 years in this space. What do you know? So these kind of reportees also being patient as a leader. I could easily have gone to the boss and said, yeah, Adil mera sunta nahi hai. But I didn't choose that path because I felt that's going to spoil things. Adil will say two things about me. कि गिरीश ये बोलता है जो मुझे पसंद नहीं आता, and then what will happen is boss ठीक है, तेरे को गिरीश को नहीं रिपोर्ट करना है, तू मंदार को रिपोर्ट कर दे. So see, they had that options. So I knew that I cannot just be a CC and go and complain to seniors. I have to find my own path and build trust, and then use trust with others. So Avinash was a reporter. He was very good in terms of reporting. He enjoyed my leadership, my suggestions at time. So this kind of build that, instilled that learner in me about leadership. I believe leadership is a vast learning, and no degree can get confidence of your team. No degree. Finally, your actions will get confidence of your team, and they will always judge you. They'll give you that challenge that, boss, tu mera leader bana hai, give me proof that you deserve that seat. So that's the challenge which you get team members who challenge you, and you have to live up to that challenge. You have to accept that challenge first of all. You cannot say I'm an MBA from Harvard or I'm an MBA from here. So that's why I deserve to be a leader. No. Team would accept your qualification. They want results.
Right. And if you have to, so obviously, I think one big thing is that this 13 plus years of being in this space obviously made you a better leader because you got down to working with people with generation gap, right? Both upwards and downwards. And I think that kind of fast tracked your ability to work with people. But apart from this, do you want to highlight maybe a person apart from Adil? Of course, you mentioned that obviously he was instrumental in making you get a different perspective, perhaps about yourself and how to become more an influential leader rather than a top-down. Apart from that, if you want to talk about anybody, one person who's been influential in the way you evolved into being that 13 and a half years of journey, is there somebody you want to recall who's been influential?
It's my favorite boss, Sanjay Prasad. He's still my favorite boss. And in fact, I hated him in some part because he bypassed me for promotion. He gave promotion to my peer who was kind of handling a B category branch. I was handling a A category branch, and I felt I deserved the promotion. So he kind of bypassed that. There are at least 3 case studies of Sanjay Prasad in my book where I kind of imagined him and wrote those case studies. My book has 80 case studies. So 3 of them are imagining Sanjay Prasad on that. And he taught me trust. Let's see, I was a less trusting leader or a trust with proof leader. Yeah. At times you have to trust the individual, and then the individual can do wonders. That's the other way of going around. One is you get proof and then trust. One is you technically trust blindly. That if he's my team member and he's been given the task, he'll do it well. Unless he gives you that proof that he's not able to do it well. So he can kind of give me that, and he used to trust so many people, all our folks who used to report into him. And the way he managed trust, the way he managed folks, the way he managed the team was something I really learned, and I built it into my book, also the case studies.
Wonderful. We'll get to talk about your book more. Is there anything that you tend to have that you would have done it differently? With all your years of learning experience, having done different things. If when you look back to these years until Whirlpool, is there
Yeah.
something you would have done differently? You feel that this is something I should have done it differently.
Yeah, so my last stint in Whirlpool was Regional Manager West. I was Director West for Whirlpool, handling the 550 crore business for Whirlpool. I had 4 branches reporting into me. And I was on a high. Getting that coveted position was a big deal in the organization at that time. Now, because of that high, I believe that I planned with the flow instead of pre-planning it. There was a good amount of learning which told me, Girish, you could have planned this first 6 months by kind of assessing first the plan, aim, and act. So that's the 3 aspects I should have done it. Maybe I didn't plan that phase that well, is my back learning, so to say. Then I'm going into that role. So one is you feel on a high that, okay, I'm going to that, I deserve it, and kind of you take it with the flow. But I could have planned that 2 years of my Director West journey better.
See,
If I had
that
planned
is
it better, the results could have been.
see that is as a in retrospect you think like that. But if you have
Yeah.
to advise someone who's there now,
Yeah.
how would you tell them? How would you tell them that what could be the pointers or flags that they need to be mindful of? Because obviously you are in a run, and it's a retrospective thinking that you could have planned it better. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at other younger entrepreneurs, professionals who are in that run, how do you tell them to uh, have some kind of flags up to keep checking on this and looking at that? How would you advise them now?
So I always consider the first 3 months in any role, be it internal transfer or people getting hired, that's the honeymoon period. And that's the time you should spend in terms of auditing as is as closely as possible. Kind of understand the as is rightly and find the gaps where your intervention might help fill in those gaps, and you can take that business to the next level. So that audit mindset in the first 3 months of I'm kind of assessing this business which I'm going to take over, and what I nowadays call A to B. So that position, what are the KPIs, the matrix at which the business you are taking over, and the B which you can take it to. So that's that matrix planning which should be done whenever you're taking up a new role or new assignment. That KPIs you understand and find out the gaps at the start, and how can you fill in those gaps to reach the B which you want, which is your goal, the target either internally given or you've self-built that target. That's the one lesson finally.
Right. And the second part is your entrepreneurial journey.
No, it's my SME stint actually.
Okay.
So the second life of Girish Batra is actually my
Yeah.
SME stint. First life was my corporate stint. Whirlpool is the number 1 home appliance company in the world. It's a Fortune 500 company. At that time, it was $20 billion top line. So the second stint, I joined a SME. So this was pure sales and marketing. In fact, less of marketing, more of sales or channel management, funds management in terms of. So I had modern trade management. This was all that which I did. On the SME, it was a 55 crore company. So I kind of joined the Loya Group company. They have a division called Threads India. They're India number 3 in swing threads. Swing threads are different applications, be it garments, shoes, bags, automobiles. So I joined them as head operations and business development. Joined a Lala company. Yeah. So that was my phase 2 of first learning from an MNC, learning best practices of how to run a professional environment or build a professional environment. So the phase 2 was the Lala company, where kind of I was reporting into a professional who was reporting into the owner, Mr. Ajay Loya. So that was my second stint. And in this stint, I got my manufacturing experience. So I was looking after a plant, a Bangalore-based plant, and plus South and West India operations. So this was my role. So part sales and marketing and part manufacturing.
How much you think things have changed from a SME point of view, right? From those days to today. I mean, those were the days where somebody starts, it was never called startup, it was always called business. So,
Mhm.
and you have a business owner who's employing families, I mean, who's employing professionals, and also a business owner in an executive function, right?
True.
So, how much have things changed today in your perspective?
SMEs are still the same. See, SMEs prefer to do safe or traditional kind of businesses, be it manufacturing, be it distribution. They still don't believe the disruption or what startups believe. Startups do. They're still in their mindset that they want to do, say, US, like the company I work for, they got technology from Coursera, France. It was started in 90s. It's a 27-year-old company, not 20 years old. It was started in 90s, and they brought technology from outside, put investment into plant and machinery, land, and then built the channel and did it the traditional way. So there was nothing innovative or disruptive in what they did. They did it, and that's what SMEs are. Lala will invest into assets instead of ideas. So, and they're still the same. The Lala today will also invest into assets and uh, traditional businesses because he sees easier return there. Right? And the Lala has the power of capital, which maybe today is also democratized. The power of capital is available to anyone. That's the change if I see. But the Lala still believes that his capital is his asset, and if he invests into businesses versus investing into say shares or property, he can get a better return. But he always assesses that rate of investment. So if he's investing into a business, say, and he's doing it on, and if he's getting less than bank interest or share market index fund interest, then he again assesses that am I doing it the right way? And half the businesses, the traditional businesses, I'd say, are giving worse return than the share market or FD also. Half the businesses in India, the SME style businesses. So identifying those businesses and then maybe not doing it or doing it differently is what the Lala wants professionals for. He hires professionals for that reason only. Like, tell me what am I doing right? Tell me what am I doing.
No, but what was your personal challenges in coming from a different industry, different sector to, I mean, your consumer customers are different, your
Yeah.
internal operations are different, the measuring metrics are different. I mean, every aspect is different. It's like a, I don't know, what do you call it? It's like a blank slate, pretty
True,
much, right? So
true,
how
true.
did you make that, and how did they choose? How did they? What were the questions? What confidence did they have in them picking you in that sense, or how did you even go for this? How did this happen?
Yeah, so actually, I spent 7, 8 months trying to do something of my own, and it wasn't working out. So this opportunity came through a family connection. Actually, that this opportunity. So it was more of the trust was built because of the connection. So that trust I had from day one, which I was lucky. Then the Lala did not hire a professional outside from outside. He hired a professional from inside. In fact, I was the first person in the organization who called him Ajay Bhai versus everyone else calling him boss, sir. And I really worked hard to build that culture. Was this as much a company of us, say the senior leadership, or even up to the last employee, as it is of the Lala. So if we have that confidence as my company, also we can challenge the Lala where the Lala is going in the wrong direction. And that's what was my 8.5 years. I used to challenge with data, challenge with my experience of, and because I had come with that initial referral, that helped to kind of build on the next level trust for the Lala.
You probably had to be extra cautious than anybody else there, right?
I didn't have to because of the trust I got initially. Like I built on it. See, otherwise you get bolted into a Lala company. There's a nice book written on it of how to survive in a Lala company. In fact, I've not picked it up, but I like the heading of it only.
I like that heading too. So interesting. We'll come to some recommendations also.
Yeah.
Coming back, one more thing I want to ask you here is that while you obviously had to be on guard and make sure no mistake, is there a time you actually made any mistake? Is
In
there
my
something you
second,
actually in this journey? Uh,
yeah. So see, uh, after the first year and a half of my recommendations helping the Lala take decisions which were beneficial for the company, yeah, the trust actually went up quite high. So at that time, I enrolled the Lala. See, if we have to do something big, then mistakes are a part and parcel of that planning big. Because Mr. Ajay Lohia he had a big vision for Threads India. He wanted a plant outside India. He wanted the company to grow at 3x what it was growing at. So for that vision, of course, mistakes have to be. But mistakes will be with guardrails. So all my experience in corporates helped me build those credit management systems where credit was not given offhand. So yeah, I built that credit management system. I built that pricing decision system. What I learned in Whirlpool. So we used to track the price on a price band. So this is the minimum price, the maximum, and linked it to quantity. So all these learnings which I had, I was able to bring in the organization. That were appreciated by Mr. Lohia. That this is what was required instead of pricing being individual based. So I like that individual. I give him a better price, or I'm in a good mood today because so that was how decisions were done earlier. So I was able to put science behind all decisions, and then anybody can take those decisions. So my objective was always build process, build capacity to run the process, and then kind of only be an observer to that. So that was my entire game plan. I grew to be the CEO also. Mr. Lohia trusted me so much that he gave me the guardrails of the company, saying you run it as CEO also for the last 2 years or so. Yeah.
So how was that point? Was it something that you actually looked up, targeted at, this is what I want to be, or how did it happen?
So somehow that co-owner bit is something I'm married to. Be it I was a senior middle management employee in Whirlpool, also that co-owner bit, where if we are doing something, how does it impact the entire chain up to the returns for the shareholder? I think that co-owner bit, and therefore kind of I see it as a easy transition to being a senior leader in that, because you always had that co-owner cap worn on. You never took decisions in terms of that. I deserve to stay in a 5-star, or I deserve to travel business class. All that we earn and we do all those actions. And versus if we not do, what money can we better use that? So that co-owner cap was always on my head.
And sorry, was it not surprising when the offer came in for you? Was it, or did you have some sense of,
see, as I said, critical decisions were flowing my way, and I never looked at this is not my domain. So, like Kanpur plant, Mr. Lohia looked after, and there was a strike. Again, there's a chapter in the book about how the strike happened and how the entire organization was panicking. That what we do next, because the strike is something which derails everything. Your customer deliveries too, and you never know how much time it will last. There was a police case also, and all that. So, managing all that with that trust in that if you are doing right, then things will be right for you. So that trust, and that's how like we were able to wait through that path also. And it was only less than 4 days of work getting disturbed. But I was there in the front, even though it was not my domain, so to say. So that's how the trust got built, and this role kind of I went into quite easily, the CEO role.
And what was the point at which you said that you want to be doing something different again? What made you change the track?
Yeah, so that's where, like, again, for almost a year, the last year, now the markets were slightly stagnant. In fact, demonetization hit just at that time when I became the CEO. So all our plans got derailed, and that's where the trust of confidence got a little, and where the Lala said, okay, I'll take the pedal, you take the brake, and we tried to run the organization as two leaders. And that's where, like, at times, see, why does a car have one driver, although an airplane has two pilots? But the idea is that one person should control everything from he's responsible for the cost, he's responsible for the sales, and he's also responsible for the profits, and he should be assessed for those KPIs which he's kind of signed up for that period. So that's where Mr. Lohia felt that maybe he wanted to do it partly himself, partly with me, and I felt that one should do it. So in the last 6 months, I kind of transitioned to Mr. Lohia back, and next level leadership team, which was trained for doing the next level roles. A young team kind of who got transitioned to that. So the last 6 months, I handed over to them with the same KPIs, with the same processes which I had created. Of course, visions are different, how one wants to take the company. I was slightly more risk-taking versus being a little risk-averse. So this was the two different styles. And that's why one person had to run the car was the transition for me.
And then you kind of took a sabbatical, and that was the time you...
Actually, the third stint starts with the second stint. So
okay.
Mr. Lohia was so confident, and he remembered my small startup stint which I had attempted before joining the Loyas, and so he encouraged me to work on that.
Okay.
So there was a company we formed, Mr. Loya and me, called Mil Gaya. This was formed in 2012, again when startups were new. December 12, we kind of opened the shop of that company. It was a real estate tech company, like what Mr. Kishore Biani did for retail, I used to say, of organizing the unorganized kirana walas. We plan to do for real estate. So there are more than 10 lakh brokers in India. But none of the brokers at that time did a top line of more than a crore. So it was a disintermediated micro organism, which we felt we can organize it using technology. So that was, we were the kind of, we were prop tech before prop tech was in fashion, so to say. And he provided the seed capital. I used to give around 20% of my time, and we started shop with that. And I hired two more co-founders. I was a part-time founder, and there were two more co-founders. So my startup stint started at that time. The germ was there in 2009 when I was leaving Whirlpool and kind of tried it. But then the germ got into a sprout and a small shrub in this stint, 2012, with Milgaya, which is a prop tech company.
And this was parallelly running while you were.
While I was leading Press India, yes. I had two more co-founders, one back end, one front end, like that. The three of us who were running Milgaya.
So I think you were in that best situation where your investor there is your boss here. So it was
right.
So so obviously you must be thinking that you are very lucky at that point of time.
I was lucky, yeah.
And what happened next? I mean, what was the total turning point?
We started the startup in a corporate way. So there was a cabin, there was a team, and for the first 9 months, we were zero revenue. And technically, even one deal, if you crack in real estate, which average broker does 5 to 6 deals a year, and each deal can give you, say, 1 to 3 lakh rupees easily. But because we were new, so we were into a new domain, because I always used to get ideas of other domains. I had no prop tech experience of real estate experience at that time.
I think so around the same time, Times of India also got started. A lot of these initiatives came in about the same time, right?
They were all classified. So there was Magic Bricks, 99 Acres, Common Floor. At my time, housing had got started. Housing.com had got started. Again, these were all classifieds, but they will list properties, and individuals, brokers could list, individual brokers could go and search properties. They were classifieds. So we were bottom up. What we had built was that we will handhold you from your property search or property sale up to property registration. So we were bottom up, and that's why we chose only East Bangalore. We're only present in East Bangalore as one locality. What we brought was that trust that they're professionals. Number two, they're going to give me only live properties, because when you go to these classifieds, you might get dead properties. Well, property dead meaning they were expired and you're still hoping that they. Because a lot of time got wasted for finding the right property. And we'll give you all the specs. So if you go to Magic Bricks 99 Acres, you'll get 30-40% of the specs, and at times they will not match with the real when you go and visit. Less than 20% properties at that time had with photos and with videos. So all 100% of our properties had these. So we used to do a audit of the property first and post all the specs along with the photographs on our portal, and make people go through virtually the property and then select a few to visit. So that's how we had built that model, and it was all programmatized. So there was a program on how the team would handle the buyer or the seller up to the final deal closure, where the senior would get involved. You're mute, sorry, Manjula. You're mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Obviously, the shutting down is not a great feeling, right?
Yeah.
And you were also working with the investor.
Right.
How was that part? Because a lot of times, two things make people go apart. One is when you make a lot of money, or when you lose money.
Yeah. So see, the idea did not shut down even today. Actually, we had learned some lessons And that's where the investor, and I also had kind of fatigued for 3 years. After 3 years, that enough time and money has gone behind this, and it's not giving the desired growth or the next level which was expected. But Ashish, my co-founder, he really believed in the idea that this has potential. And he found another investor. He built the same platform again and uh, ran it again. So it's like the idea born in 2012 is alive even today in 2023. And he raised $1 million just about 8, 9 months back. So
Wow. What
that
is
gives
it
me the
called, if it's
confidence.
okay to talk about?
It's called Settle In. It's called Settle In. The same idea. It was in Milgia before. Now it's in Settle In. Settlin. And Ashish, and I give that credit to him, that he saw the power of the idea and said maybe we have to do it differently. So if this investor, and technically Girish, also a part-time co-founder, does not believe, he rebuilt it from scratch, the technology platform, and it's so that's the power, and that's the power of perseverance also, which I learned from Ashish, and I try and build it into me in my third stint or third phase. The power of perseverance behind an idea.
So what is a kida for the third stint?
Okay, coming to the third stint now. So, I always had a lot of ideas, and I'm that change in my visiting card also. I had put that change seeker. So the world is changing, and as an individual, I have a choice to be afraid of change, think that change is going to take away my job or change is going to take away my business, or ride the change tiger. So I always was on the other side, and I used to get multiple ideas. So now if you get multiple ideas, either you like, my wife used to say, take one, build it. I said, instead of building it, I want to support the people who are going to build these ideas. So that's how I wanted to work in the enablement game for startups. So I started with incubation. So 2017 incubation piece of my journey was born in the first enablement game. I spent 1.5 years in the incubation space. I worked with around 9 colleges. I got trained into design thinking because that I felt that was the best tool. In the Milgia stint, I used design thinking. I used the best brains of design thinking, but I delegated the design thinking task to them. So the company who does design thinking for Big Bazaar and the Future Group at that time, EDM, they are a Future Group company now. I hired them to do design thinking for Milgia, but they didn't go on the field to find out what this business is all about. That's the founder's job. So what they designed was the logo, the uniform, the specs, the brochures. That's what they designed. And that's not design thinking. Design thinking is actually designing your product by first starting with empathizing with the customer, seeing if he has that problem. So that's why I got into design thinking, and I realized design thinking starts with the founder, not with a third party agency who does it for you.
Yeah, founder going through the customer journey himself or herself.
Right. So the 1.5 years I spent into incubation, working with college as early as possible, who have ideas, who have a problem to solve, and train them into design thinking. Tell them to take your idea through this design thinking framework. And I, in fact, encourage them not start with the idea, start with the problem, which is all design thinking is all about. Start with the problem, define it, and check if it's an unsolved problem. So design thinking is all about finally checking, am I solving a solved problem? Am I solving an unsolved problem? 1.5 years and with limited results. Colleges were receptive. They had that curriculum clash. Should I teach the curriculum or should I invest my students' energy into their ideas? So 1.5 years, no much progress, so to say, in my enablement game. And that's when the acceleration piece happened. And at that time, I was a novice. So it's like this, but the perseverance piece was there always back of my mind. And I have to persevere. And then from incubation, I kind of graduated to acceleration. I said, let incubation be a journey on their own. And they know design thinking, they know what to do. We will catch startups who are kind of committed to an idea, which is solving an unsolved problem. And that's how the acceleration piece, which kind of is also built into what we are doing in Sarthy, got all for framework. And for 2 years plus now, Sarthy is up and running. And
We'll get to Sarthy, but before that, so you spent time doing local projects. That is where what you are talking about as incubation, and so that is what you that is when you determine that this is the space you want to be taking on. And you also started investing at that point of time as an angel investor in the course
More in
of
the
time.
last year and a half. And during Sarthy period only, I started my angel investment journey also.
Okay. And uh, at any point of time, did you ever think that you want to do something on, start your own thing? Because it's so frustrating to see work with incubation centers and see people do things, and there is as little or as much you can do as an advisor or a mentor.
True.
So at no point of time you thought that, okay, you know what, enough of it.
No, so Sarthy is a replacement or a better option versus incubators or accelerators. When I explain about
Okay,
Sarthy,
so you rather took
it
the
is
other route of saying that, okay, I need to change the way engaging the startup for founders itself.
the early stage startups. What they need
Okay,
is what Sarthy has been able to build. Yeah.
wonderful. So, Girish, in the course of your whole journey, right, uh, starting from software engineer to you packaged it into three boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, do you want to talk about who are the people who have been influential in shaping up a person who's able to take on new changes, new things head on and get into it and make it, and not look at oneself more as a survivor, but somebody who thrives on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times people tend to shrink when
Mm-hmm.
there is a change,
True.
right? And here you change and you actually expand rather
True.
than shrink.
True.
So, is there somebody who's been influential in shaping the person that you are, that has helped you to be and do things that you have done till now?
Yeah. So there are a few habits. There are a few people, and so I believe as an individual, one has to grow, right? Because there's only two paths: either you stagnate or you grow. And for that, one needs to look for growth outside, or the growth elements which help you grow outside or inside. So I did my Vipassana course in 2017, which helped me understand the inside, right? So the thoughts, and in fact, I keep using the word that the mind is a monkey mind, and if you are able to kind of hold on to it, then you realize that there's so much more you can do with that same 1 minute which all of us have. So that's Vipassana helped me to kind of focus. So and be where I am always instead of my mind going into multiple places while I'm on a particular task. So of course that Vipassana and Goenkaji with his entire lessons is really powerful, and
Sorry, can you repeat that name?
it's Vipassana. It's a
No,
meditation.
yeah. And you,
Goenkaji is the one who kind of has created this Vipassana organization,
okay.
which people learn meditation on. So, and the second was my reading habit. So when I wrote my book, also I had 5 books of notes which I've created from so many years of all the books I've read, from Good to Great to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People to the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. So I keep a track of the what touched me in that book. Or the second is Mint. So I devour a Mint paper on every Sunday. Like I'll collect the 5 editions and I'll devour it. I go as deep and make friends also with some of the authors. Abhishek Banerjee is one of the authors, and I kind of liked what he was writing, and I reached out on LinkedIn and kind of I'm connected with him. So I kind of look for inspiration at all these places, because I said if I have to write the change tiger, I have to find out what the change is all about. So what is the ChatGPT thing? What is this new piece on governance which is going to come in startups? Sorry. So I have to kind of understand the tiger while folks are commenting on it, writing on it. So these are the and the third piece which I have kind of helped me change is the giving my time to social service, the volunteering piece. So in 2017 only, I kind of re-volunteered for something called as Dan Utsav. And that's where I met Venkat, who's a lovely human being. He's the founder of Give India also. And together we formed something called Living My Promise, where we committed 50% of our wealth to charity. There are 120 signatories to that. So kind of have that third piece where kind of we believe we are very significant, and but when you are in that giving journey, you realize that there's so much joy, so much pleasure you get when you are able to influence someone, be it making more future ready, the kids in orphanages, or sponsor meals or time for the blind school where my wife and I go at times. My wife is a yoga teacher, so she's more involved into this giving with time. I'm involved with little time and someone. But that joy, so kind of losing yourself in service versus always working for some goal or some. That's the third piece which I've been able to build in my life. So three pieces. One was said habits. Second was the taking notes and the meditation, which I told you. And the third is this giving time with no intention of getting something in return. And getting happiness, which is also a reasonably good return, which I get by giving my time and money. So that's the third piece, which I believe, which just helps me to ride this tiger or stick on to riding the tiger.
Wonderful. Do you want to make some recommendations of books, podcasts, something that you listen to, follow?
Yeah, so I listen to Osho reasonably, and of course, books. The latest I would recommend the Almanac of Naval Ravikant to everyone. It's a really powerful book, which I read. And as I said, if I like something, I'll read it 3 times, Madani. And it's the number of pages of notes I've been able to create. So that's how I measure that this book has really impacted me. So The Power of Naval Ravikant is a really powerful book for people in the startup world, or people kind of trying to find their goal of life. It's a very powerful book. And then there's The Psychology of Money, which again influenced me, and Homo Sapiens. These 3 books in the last year or I would have read around 15, but these are the 3 which kind of stuck on. And the earlier Good to Great was again a very nice book, Jim Collins' book. And Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. I consider myself a student of strategy. So Good Strategy, Bad Strategy is also a nice book which I go back to whenever I'm stuck on strategy.
Oh, it is a great book. Can I request you to change make it your background normal and hold the book up? Because, if you keep your background, what do you call that? Blurred, the book won't be visible. So maybe you could show the cover of the book.
This is the book, Excellence in Leadership, which I've written. This was published in 2018. So it's majorly it's my stint 1 and stint 2, my corporate stint, and so maybe there'll be another book on my stint 3, which is a work in progress as I see it.
Wonderful. So we'll also share the link of this book below the podcast. So please go through, and I'm sure you already are familiar what's in the book. Girish, in between, referred to quite a few things which are also captured in the book. So I'm sure it makes a great reading. So please do look up and feel free to share it. Girish, is there anything that you would want to talk about that didn't come about now before we...
So the third stint is planned next, or can I share more details about what I'm doing?
I would... what you're doing is what we would like to discuss with in the next session. So in this session, if something you want to talk about, or something that you think I probably didn't ask, or you wish it asked you.
Yeah, nothing coming to mind, Nabila. So I think...
thank you, Girish, then. And listeners, audience, thank you so much. And I'm sure you liked hearing Girish and his course of journey. And please do check out the book. The links are given below the podcast. And thank you. Enjoy the ride and join us soon to hear what's Girish busy with, and what's the Sarthy story, and how are they working with startups, and what kind of startups, and everything else in that conversation. Thank you. Enjoy the ride. Thank you again, Girish.
Thank you. Bye.